Sunday, we've talked about the months of the Hebrew Bible, and we've talked about the fact that we have three about three systems by which we name the months of the Hebrew Bible. Okay, we've talked about the ordinal system. We've talked about the Phoenician system that serves, and we've talked about the Babylonian system that we see. Also was mentioned the month of Aviv, and I thought about what should we do today, and one of my students was very interested in this, to know more about the months and how the beginning of the month was celebrated, because on Sunday and Monday we started the month of Mar Cheshvan, and we've talked about the meaning of that word. So I decided that today we can take a look at what was the practice in the biblical times in the beginning of the month, in the first day of the month. And it goes back to the discussions we had in the past concerning the calendar in general. We've talked about the Jewish calendar being both a combination of the solar and the lunar, okay? And that's exactly what is the origins of the importance of the months, okay? Because if we were not to consider the months, that would be exactly a solar year. And if we were to just consider the months in our yearly cycle, we would have had a deficit of 11 days, because the 12 times it takes the Earth to revolve around the moon to revolve around Earth is shorter by about an 11-day than what it takes the Earth to revolve around the sun. Okay, so Hebrew makes this combination, and we've talked about it in the past, even in one of my newsletters and so forth. Today, I want to talk about the beginning of the month, but I still have some like remnants from previous discussion. So we've talked about the months. Let me share it on screen. And we've talked about the months, and we said that, just a second. Okay, we've seen this, and we're going to kind of continue with this theme. Okay. Talked about the different months. And I've kind of mentioned in passing the Gezer calendar, and I think it's worth mentioning in a little bit of greater detail. The Gezer calendar is essentially a calendar that is agricultural by nature, okay, and it shows that much of the, as to be expected, much of the life and the time, as far as the ancient Israelite, was concentrated on the months according to the agricultural works that had to be done during that time. I'm not getting into all of it. This is, as you can see, written in ancient Hebrew. We've mentioned this with Professor Fosberg, who mentioned this as one of the earliest documents written in Hebrew. Yerecho or Yerechav Asif, Yerechav Zera, Yerechav Lekesh, Yerach Etzed Feshet, probably Yerach Katzir Seruim, Yerach Katzir Vekale, Yerechav Zemer, and Yerach Ketz. If you look at the ones that have the vav at the end, you see that we have three that have the vav at the end, and that's probably periods of 2 months. I mean 4 that have the vav at the end, and that probably refers to Yerechav as the dual form. It's months, and so it might have been a period of 2 months. Okay, that yeah.
Is it on parchment or wood or clay?
No,
What
no,
else
no,
do
no,
you?
no, 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 no. That's a stone. Okay, that's a stone. It's an agricultural calendar. Find on limestone specifically if you want to know the type of stone, and it's a small one. It's this big. It's small. It's 10 centimeters, 11 centimeters. It's not a, you know, one might imagine something big. No, no, no. It's about 5 inches, between 4 and 5 inches, for those of you who speak inches, about 11 centimeters tall, and 7 centimeters wide, about again 3 inches wide. So that's the Gezer calendar, and when I, God willing, have the time to actually write and video a short online course, it might feature that as well. And let's see this. Okay, yes. So I'm going back to the discussion that we had concerning the months, and I want to talk about the practices that were done at the beginning of the month. This is something that we have not seen last time, but it's pretty much similar to the concept of what we've seen last time. Again, ביום 24 ל-12 חודש הוא חודש שבט. So again, we said that the Babylonian names of the months, we have 7 of these months mentioned in the Bible. בשנת שתיים לדריווש היה דבר אדוני אל זכריה בן ברכיהו בן עידו הנביא לאמור, the book of Zechariah. Okay, so putting that aside, I want to talk about how was the beginning of the month celebrated. Okay, because the beginning of the month, the rebirthing of the moon, so to speak, even the name Chodesh, right? What is the meaning of the name Chodesh? You can see the root is Chet Daled and Shin, which has to do with renewal, right? So we have a renewal of the moon, okay, which creates the month cycle, okay? And the birth of the moon is something that was considered to be important as it marks a cycle. As opposed, by the way, as opposed to the week and the Shabbat, which are quite unique. They are not related to the actual time, to the physical world, right? The Shabbat is a convention. One could decide to have a Shabbat every 10 days, theoretically. But no, you cannot decide when would you have the rebirth of the month, the renewal of the month. That you have on a set time. It is related to the physical astronomical world. Shabbat and the 7 days cycle, completely, a convention of people according to the biblical story, okay, according to the day in which God rested from his work. So that's the Shabbat, and the difference between the Shabbat and the month and the year, because years are also astronomical. Even if you don't have a 365 and a quarter of a day as your year, there is still a connection between your calendar and the year in the Jewish world, where you compensate for that deficit. But the year is something that is rooted in the reality, nature. The month is rooted in nature. The week and the Shabbat are not rooted in nature. Okay, that is a big distinction between the two. Maybe after putting the month to sleep, we might go and talk about the week. Who knows? Maybe the cycle of 7 days and the cycle of 7 years, because the word week in the Bible is referring to both. And then we can talk about the 7th year, maybe the 50th year. We have enough. Luckily, we've got the whole Bible. So, how was the beginning of the month celebrated in ancient Israel, guys? Anyone?
There was a feast.
It was a feast. Okay, that's a good reason. You know, I'm willing to have a feast every day, right? Nah, but there was a feast. Okay, and you know what? We can start with it. Okay. There was a feast, and we can see here Jonathan and David talking. Okay, and they are talking about the fact that there would be a feast here tomorrow, because it would be the Chodesh. The word Chodesh, which is month, is also the word for the first day of the month, because of the renewal of the renewal of the cycle of the moon. So it's a new moon, it's a new month. Okay, Chodesh. And let's see this reference to the feast. I'm sure some of you definitely might remember also the context in which David is persecuted by Saul, and he is trying to kind of learn more about this situation through Jonathan. Okay, let's see this verse which attests to that feast. If you want to read, raise your hand. Yes, Georgie, go ahead.
Vayomer
David,
El
David,
David, yes, David El Yehonatan
Yehonatan,
Hine Hodesh Makar Vayo no Niye Yishav Yasaf.
Yashov Eshev,
Yeah. Oh, Yashov Eshev. Thank you. Im Ha Melech Laok Laek Kol. Yeah. Vashila Tanie Vanis Tartie Basa de Yad Hayire Hash Li Shiet.
השלישית. ויאמר דוד אל יהונתן, הנה חודש מחר, ואנוכי ישוב אשב עם המלך לאכול. ושילחתני, ונסתרתי בשדה, עד הערב השלישית. English, please.
So David said to Jonathan, behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I ought to sit down to eat with the king. But let me go, that I may hide myself in the field until the third evening.
Right. So, as was correctly mentioned by Mignonette, there would be a feast. Here you can see it is described um, as a special meal with a king and David being kind of an aide-de-camp of the king and also married to his daughter and also the best friend of his son is expected to attend. There is an official dinner for the celebration of the new moon. Okay, so there is a feast. How about, let's look at some of what we've got here. How about Yashov Eshiv? Here, guys. Anyone wants to take Yashov Eshiv? Don't be shy. Hector, go ahead.
Since the starts in the beginning, the whole verse.
No. Just Yashov Eshiv. Can you help us understand better what do we have here in this form of Yashov Eshiv?
Yeah. Sorry, I can get it because I go out from the laptop. Excuse me.
Okay. So.
Yeah, Shobe Chef. Do you mean that I can read it?
No. I want you to parse these forms. What do we have here morphologically speaking?
Okay. I got it. Oh, hey, I can handle it. Excuse me, sorry.
Okay, so it's all right. It's all right. Let's see this Gene. Gene.
I need to unmute. I never remember to unmute. Okay. And they're the same root, I think. Is it yot, shin, bet, and yashov? Eshev is yiktol, one common singular, and kal. And yashov, I think it's kal infinitive of yot shin bet.
Right. So infinitive absolute of the kal.
Infinitive absolute, yeah.
Okay. So we have Yashov and Eshev combining the infinitive absolute Yashov with the first person common singular of the Yiktol Eshev. How do we call such a construction? Do you remember, Gene?
No. The only fancy thing that I remember is tautological, and it's not.
Oh, very good. That's it. Very good.
Oh, that's what Ulrika always gets right.
Right. I see her hand was up. Right.
Thank you, Ulrika.
Sure. He was coming to your aid. Very good. Yashov Eshev im hamelech lecho. I shall surely sit with the king, or I am expected to be sitting here with the king. Veshilachtani. Okay, veshilachtani venistarti vasade ad ha'erev hashelishit. So let me go so I can hid in the field until the third evening. So we know that the king had a feast, but it doesn't mean that everybody had a feast. How do I know that everybody had a feast? Luckily, or down the road, when that is Jonathan, has to explain the behavior of his friend David, he says, he is as if quoting David as asking to go to this party that David's family is having. Okay, and they would have a gathering because of this because of the first day of the month. Okay, so let's see this. Susanna, I saw your hand was up before. Would you like to read?
Let's see. Vayomer Shalteni.
Shalecheni, that's a chet, not a.
Shalacheni na ki zevat
Zevach mishpacha lanu.
mishpacha lanu.
Again, note the chet here instead of the tav. Zevach.
Zevach. Yeah. Mishpatan. Mishpata
Mishpacha. No.
lanu.
Again, mishpacha.
Oh yeah. Mishpacha lanu.
Lanu.
Lanu ba'ir. Vehu Zivani Achi. Oh, is that a top?
Tivali achi. No, achi. It's a chet. It's a chet. You can see when it's a tav, we have in the next word a tav, so you can see the difference between the two.
Ah, yeah. Okay. This is where I sometimes run into problems. Ve'zata. Ve'ata. Yeah. Ve'ata im ma'sati. Hen be'anecha. Be'anecha. Imalta. Na ve'ar et echa. Oh, sorry. Al ken lo va el shulechan Hamelecha.
Hamelech.
Hamelech, the king.
Right.
For he said, please let me go, since our family has a sacrifice in the city, and my brother has commanded me to attend. And now, if I have found favor in your sight, please let me get away, that I may see my brothers. For this reason, he has not come to the king's table.
Right. So, Jonathan, explaining David's actions, is referring to what would be the party that would be taken in David's family to celebrate it. So David is answering Jonathan is answering that David went to partake in the regular sacrifice of his family in Bethlehem. Okay, so I don't know if they would do it every month, but we certainly learned that the family of David, and possibly that was a common practice, would gather for possibly an annual or a regular sacrificial party in one of these first days of the month. Okay, let's see some of the forms that we have here. How about just a second? Shalecheni. Let's see, guys. Ain, would you like to take Shalecheni?
It is Shalach, and that is it's the Piel. It's the imperative, and it's got the object suffix me at the end of it, to send me.
Right, so send.
And it's third masculine singular, sorry, and then first common singular object suffix.
Right, but I should say that Shalecheni.
Sorry, second, yeah.
The PL verb, okay, in Shalecheni, as you correctly said, is PL, is not just a regular send, it is also let me go. When
With the na at the end, is it?
no, not just with an I at the end. When we all remember let my people go, right? We all remember this. What is the Hebrew of let my people go?
When they were in Egypt.
Yeah, in Egypt. I was referring to the episode where the Israelites are enslaved in Egypt, and Moses says to Pharaoh, let Ko amar Adonai Elohei Ivrim, shalach et ami. Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go, as you would find in many translations, and as became a very popular song, let my people go, right? So what's the Hebrew for let my people go? Anyone knows?
Shlach ani.
Shalat ech ami.
Shalach et ami. That is to say, it's a PL form, and the PL form has the sense of to let go, okay, to send away, not just to send. So when he says shalecheni, it is more like let me go, please. Give me, take me off the hook for that family dinner or whatever, royal dinner, because I have a family event. Okay? So he says, David asked me to let him go because he has this family event, and he said to me, Vehu tzivali, Achi ve'ata imna matzati chen be'enecha, imaleta ve'er'e et echai. Al ken lova el shulchan hamelech. This is how he explains David's absence from the event. Obviously, David is very careful in this case because Saul is seeking to kill him. So how about we have Tiva, PL, and Matzati, first person, common singular, Kal Katal. How about Imaleta or Imaletana even? Let's see this. Hector, do you want to ask a question, or do you want to? I see your hand is up.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to down to put.
It's all right. It's all right. How are things in Colombia? Good?
Okay, let's. We have a difficult right now with the indigenous people from the south of the country. They came to the capital and they're going to have a big one meeting tomorrow. There is a big problem here right now.
Okay. Interesting what you're saying. Okay, so Imaleta. What is the binyan of Imaleta? Guys,
Ay, se cortó.
what's the binyan?
Nifal.
And nifal, right? We can see it's a nifal because it has the dagesh in the first root letter in a prefix conjugation. Sorry. And all of it is a quote of David. Jonathan is quoting David saying, let me go so I can, achi, and now if I find favor in your eyes, let me run away so I may see my brothers. And this is why he did not come to the king's table, to the king's meal. So the king would have a feast, the families would have feasts, and people would go indeed to visit the prophets as well, okay, and to celebrate it in the temple as well. Let's see these two verses. Very interesting, each in its own for its own reasons. Let's read the first one, guys. Guys, if you want to read, let's hear you. Don't be shy. I want to see more hands, more hands. Come on. Mignonette, how about this? Mignonette, don't forget to unmute.
Veyomer my Madua Apti et at Halakti Holeket Elav Hayom.
So we read the one in the books, okay,
Okay.
in the square brackets, not in
Okay.
the circular
Okay.
ones. That's the difference between the ketiv and the kere.
Lo Hoshedet Kodesh Velo Shabbat Vehomer Shalom.
Vatomer shalom. That's a tab.
Vatomer Shalom.
English, please.
And he said, why will you go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. And she said, it will be well.
Okay. Madua at holechet elav hayom. Even the reason for here to be a ketiv and a kere is fascinating, possibly related to the northern dialect. Maybe we should one day talk about the northern dialect of the Hebrew. I actually wanted Professor Gary Ransberg to come and speak with us about this subject. He's like the, but I have failed to get him to agree to come. But who knows? I'll try again. I try every every once in a while. I'm a little bit of an Israeli, not taking no for an answer, but you know, that's possibly the reason for this to have a difference between the written version and the read version, here reflected by the different versions in the different parentheses. In any case, this, do you remember the context of this verse?
The prophet Elijah had his servant, they used to,
not Elijah, Elisha.
yes, they used to stop in at a widow, a lady's house, and she prepared a room for them. And he asked his servant, what can I do for her? And the servant said she has no children. And so he called her and he told her that she'll embrace the child this time next year. But then the child got ill. He was working with his father in the field. He got ill, and his father sent him to his mother, but he died. And she put him on the prophet's bed, and she went after the prophet to get him to come to raise him from the dead.
Right. And here, that's the point in the story where the husband says to her, oh, why are you going to the prophet? It is neither the first day of the month, nor it is the Shabbat. And what's her answer? Shalom. She's really not answering him. Okay? But what can we learn from this for our purposes? For our purposes, it seems that it was a very common practice to go to the prophet on the first day of the month. Okay? So he would have expected it if it were to be the first day of the month, but it is not. So why are you doing it? Okay, she doesn't answer him. She doesn't answer anyone else. And it's a whole interesting story. Those of you who studied the stories of Elisha with me, I'm sure have a vivid memory of this story. Now, let's see the bottom one, which is almost the last verse of the book of Isaiah. Just the second to last. Susanna, would you like to read the bottom one, please?
Okay, I'll give it another go. Vahaya Nidei Chodesh,
Chodesh.
Chodesh, Bechadesho,
Bechodsho.
Bechodsho. What is that, Bechodsho?
Bechodsho. The accent is on the last syllable.
Oh, okay. Bechodsho. Umidei, Shabbat. Hi, Shabbat. Be Shavato. Va Vabu Vavu Va
Yavo.
Yavo Kol Bashor Bashar
Basar. Basar.
Basar Le Hishtacha Yo
Lehishtachavot.
Le Hishtachavot Lefanei
Lefanai.
Lefanai Amar Adonai. And it shall be from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all mankind will come before me.
Right. Um, very good. This is the end of Isaiah prophesying the returning from the different parts of the exile and starting a new era, so to speak. And in that era, okay, it is not just the Israelites who are coming to the temple in the first day of the month, right? But you can see that even the nations are coming to Jerusalem, coming to the temple in every beginning of the month, in every Shabbat. Okay, this is very interesting. Okay, and we can see in both of these references, Chodesh and Shabbat, a combination between the 2 days, suggesting, by the way, that there was probably a practice of not working during the first day of the month, right? We all know that the Shabbat is a day of cessation of activities where people would not work. Okay, but the first day of the month is not practiced today in that way. But it seems from these verses, and especially from Amos, a verse that I did not bring, which I should have brought, but Amos talks about quoting the traders of the northern kingdom, saying, "Oh, when will the first day of the month pass? Okay, so we can start selling grain. When would the Sabbath pass, so we can go back and open the storages of the grain, so we can continue cheat everybody." Okay, he is describing these people who are very, very devoted to their religious practices of not working during the month, the first day of the month, the new moon, and the Shabbat, but alongside that, they are anxiously waiting to return to their bad practices, wicked ways. Okay, so the Shabbat and the Chodesh all together, suggesting that sacrifices were that we know, but obviously that people didn't work, and we know that in the first day of the month, the new moon sacrifices were offered. This is Numbers 28, 11 to 15, describing the sacrifices that were offered in the temple or the tabernacle during the Shabbat. I'll read this. I'll read it in the traditional reading. Okay. ובראשי חודשכם תקריבו עולה לאדוני פרים בני בקר שניים ועיל אחד כבשים בני שנה 7 תמימים ו13 עשרונים סולת מנחה ולולב השמן לפר האחד 2 עשרונים סולת מנחה ולולה בשמן לעיל האחד ועיסרון עיסרון סולת מנחה ולולה בשמן לכבש האחד עולה ריח ניחוח אישה לאדוני ונזקיהם חצי יין יהיה לפר ושלישית ההין לעיל ורביעית ההין לכבש יין זאת עולת חודש בחודשו לחודשי השנה וסיר עזים אחד לחטאת לאדוני על עולת התמיד יעשה ונזכור. So by the way, every kind of special day, including the new moon, in the synagogue, you would have the reading of the relevant day. Okay, which means that on the first day of the month, on the new moon, you would have this read. Not just this, because we always read. If we open the Torah, we always read a minimum of 10 verses. We never, with the exception of one occasion, read from the Torah scroll less than 10 verses. But this is not a Torah scroll, and so we can read 1 or 2 verses. We're not obligated to that. Let's see the English here. Guys, let's have someone who likes reading English.
I can do it.
Go ahead.
Then at the beginning of each of your months, you shall present a burnt offering to the Lord, 2 bulls and 1 ram, 7 male lambs, 1 year old without defect. Do I carry on?
Yeah, we have a lot here.
Okay. And 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour for a grain offering, mixed with oil for each bull, and 2/10 of fine flour for a grain offering, mixed with oil for the 1 ram. And 1/10 of ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering for each lamb, for a burnt offering of soothing aroma, an offering by fire to the Lord. And their libations shall be half a hin of wine for a bull, and 1/3 of hin for the ram, and 1/4 of a hin for a lamb. This is the burnt offering of each month throughout the months of the year, and 1 male goat for a sin offering to the Lord. It shall be offered with its libation in addition to the continual burnt offering.
Right, you made me hungry. No.
Oh yeah.
I'm just kidding here. Okay, very good. And but the Hebrew is nicer, you know. So in the first day of the month, if we look into the details, there is quite a number of offerings that are given here. This is the same amount of offerings that you would have in the festival of Passover, obviously not including the Paschal lamb, or the festival of weeks. Only in the festival of of booths you would have more offerings than this. So the first day of the month is considered to be a very important day. Again, evidently more than how it is. It is still important in Jewish calendar, but we don't stop work, not really. And we do have a little bit of a special prayer, but not like you would have in a Shabbat. Okay, so that's that. And I want to, Susanna, do you have a question? Your hand is up. Susanna, your hand is up.
Sorry, I was going to ask a question before, but I forgot it. It's okay. I got confused at one
Yeah,
point.
me singing tend to do it for people. You know, they.
Actually,
they're
you're
a little-
getting better, Netanel. It's the practice.
Ah,
Thank you very much.
It
Thank
was
you. Very much.
lovely.
Right.
Nathaniel, is it known when the celebration of the new moon stopped?
Okay, so so if you mean, what do you mean by the stopped? Because it did not stop. We still celebrated. Like if you go to the synagogue, you would have a different set of prayers, okay, slightly different. And if you go to my kids' kindergarten, yes, they do go with a white shirt when it's the first day of the moon, you know, the new moon, and the same goes for the school. So it is celebrated to an extent, but not like a Shabbat. So when did they stop cessation of activities during the first day of the month? I don't know. And really the fact is that we don't know to what extent everybody stopped their activities. However, I do have a good surprise for you in regards to this question, and that would be a good place to end today's discussion. So, do you see this on screen?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, this is the Arad Ostrakhan number 7. An ostrakhan is simply a piece of pottery, a broken piece of pottery, which served basically as a note. Okay, this is how you would write a note. Okay, you would take a broken piece of pottery and you just write upon it. You can see the actual ostrakhan on the right hand side, pieced by these 3 pieces put together. You can see facsimile next to it, okay? And on the left, we have the Hebrew, both in kind of closer to the original without the vowel pointing, just in the Second Temple period script, the block script. And on the left-hand side, we have a suggestion with the vowel pointing. The reason I brought Ostrakhan number 7 from Arad is that this Ostrakhan is very interesting in regards to the question of the new moon. Okay, because it says the following: El Eliashiv, to Eliashiv. That's the name of the guy who was in charge of this storage house that is in Arad, a stronghold that served as possibly as a way station, providing provisions for people traveling to the south. Ve'ata, and now this is the way you start a letter, especially if you're talking to someone who is your who is lower in rank or not as important. Okay, you don't start with a blessing, just with ve'ata. Okay, נתון לכתיים לעשירי באחד לחודש עד השישה לחודש בתים שלושה. Give the Kitiyim, these probably Aegean mercenaries, okay, not Judean, not Hebrew, okay, give them a certain amount of wine, okay, that should be good for them for 6 days, okay. La'asiri be'echad lachodesh, on the 10th month, possibly the first day of the month, be'echad lachodesh, ad hashisha lachodesh. Okay, until the 6th day of the month. Okay. But, okay, what should be, you should give them a certain amount of wine, but it says, וכתבת לפניך בשניים לחודש בעשירי. But you should write it down before you on the second day of the 10th month. That is interesting. Why would you have them provide the commodities, the provisions on the first day, but write it down only on the second day?
If the first day is the new moon and they celebrate it as a Sabbath, you don't write on the Sabbath.
Right, you don't write on the Sabbath. You are not supposed to give also, I guess, provisions, but they are Kittiim. They're not Hebrews. They have to get their rations. So he is telling him, you can give it to them on the first day of the month, but write it down on the books, maybe in order not to write, or maybe in order not to write on the books that you've given them the rations on the first day of the month. I don't know if he is telling him to cook the books, or he is telling him not to write on the first day of the month. But nonetheless, I think in any case, it shows that it is that the first day of the month was a day where you were not supposed to work, from this Arad Ostrakhan number 7. So guys, we've talked last time about the 3 different systems for the naming of the months, and today we've talked about the practices of the first day of the month. So I think that we now have a better understanding of the months and what was practiced in these months, the new moon day. And thank you for listening. I just have to think now, what should we do tomorrow?
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Nadia.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for singing. Thank you for singing, Nathaniel.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for everything.
Whoever listens to me singing here goes directly to heaven. You know why?
Rabbi.
Because he goes to heaven because hell he has already gone. You know,
Oh,
already.
no,
So now he goes directly to heaven.
no.
That was
Okay.
beautiful.
Can I ask one question before you go? I'm
Oh,
so
go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
If the months are based on the moon and it's a 28-day,
29 and a half. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, doesn't the new moon always be on would the very first month, would it not have been a Sabbath?
No, if it were to be 28, yes, then you would have a division into 4, and then it would be the same day. Some have suggested that there is a connection between the approximation of 28 days, but I think it's too far. It's actually 29 and a half days. So I think that this suggestion is not based enough.
Thank you.
Nathaniel, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the question is, I have heard in our parasha when our teacher was teaching that the word shaliach, the person who goes and observes the new moon, is something, a role significant or a normality?
Oh, there is the shluchim, that they would go from Jerusalem to, after the day of the new moon was decided, they would go to the diaspora to let them know when was decided to start the new moon, because it could be on 1 or 2 days, and then that would define the beginning of the celebration. For instance, if you have the Day of Atonement on the 10th day of the 7th month, okay? So that is decided, which day is decided by the decision concerning the new moon and the sighting of the new moon and the accepting of the witnesses that testified to it. And I think we have a good place to start tomorrow to talk about the sighting of the moon, maybe, and there is and that practice, and when did it stop? Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. So there, maybe we'll see. Tomorrow, guys, we anyway, we won't do the full hour tomorrow. We'll do something shorter because my wife has a meeting and she wants me to attend that meeting as well. So that's the direction. And thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Again, I don't know what's gonna, if we're gonna continue or not, but we had a great run so far, and I don't know if we'll continue beyond the end of October. We'll see how how it works out. But thank you anyway, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Mhm.
Uh,
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Shalom.
Bye.
Such a blessing.